Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our second ever video legislative report. I'm David Fraser, Executive Director of WHAM. I'm joined by our Legislative Director, Bob McLaurin. Good to have you here, Bob.
Thanks, Dave.
Good to see you upright. Good to be upright,
Yep.
for that matter. Want to just thank everybody that attended our conference this past week. We had a really great attendance, and I think everybody had a good time. I missed some of the conference for health reasons, I'm disappointed about that. But the staff really did a fantastic job. I thought, knocked it out of the park, including getting Carl Mecklenburg to come visit with us. And we have the evidence right here that Carl was here. So if there's anybody out there that isn't a Broncos fan, we apologize, but not really. So, well, why don't we start out? I think the big news of the week, and really what we need to thank our members for, is where we are on direct distribution. As we reported last week, of course, the governor's, if you didn't join us last week, the governor's budget put 110 in direct distribution. That was cut back to 105 by the interim committee. In the House, we got that with the help of some of our friends, boosted up to 146.25 million. And that's the way it passed the House. So it's out of the House now, on its way to the Senate. Well, excuse me, not on its way to the Senate. In fact, the Senate committee heard it last Friday. The room, if you were there, thank you. If you weren't there, just know that the entire room was city officials when that committee had that discussion. And that sent a very loud message, and we were successful in getting it out of the Senate Appropriations Committee, still at the 146.25 million. Now, Bob, it's not over.
Well, it's going to be a challenge, I think, when it goes to the Senate floor to keep it at 146. The Senate has been pretty conservative this year, but we're going to do our dead level best to keep it at that number, and we'll have to see how it goes. It's on general file in the Senate. As you said, it came out of appropriations with a unanimous vote, and it was a really good showing by our folks. We must have had 60, 70 people there in that room.
It was really great. And you can still give us a hand. You can still be some help, because it's going to need to be voted up on the floor 3 times.
Yeah.
It'd be fantastic if you could reach out to your individual senators.
Yeah.
And encourage them to keep that whole.
Yeah.
If you can talk them into more.
If you can talk them into more, the better. The other thing you might tell them is don't mess with the formula. There was some talk in Senate Appropriations about changing the formula, and that would be a very tough thing for the cities and the counties. But yeah, we're very excited about it. 146.25 is what we got the last biennium.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Back to the formula. Not everybody's happy with the formula, but I think everybody's equally unhappy about it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Dave.
It's a
good way to put it.
So tell us what else is cooking over there, Bob.
Well, I think the big news of last week was the House and the Senate finally passed a budget. When the governor's budget was about 11.1 billion that he submitted to the legislature, and during the course of the debate, there were some 350 amendments between both the House and the Senate. To the extent that they missed their second reading deadline, they had to suspend the rules and adopt the budget a day later than they were supposed to. But the good
so they
news,
have rules, kind of,
except when they don't. So they have passed the budget. The House and the Senate, as I said, the governor's recommendation was 11.1 billion. The House budget is $450 million higher than that. The Senate budget is $450 million lower than that. So they're about $900 million off. So the next step in the process is the Joint Conference Committee will be appointed, and they will have to work out a single budget. They're going to have to meld that into one budget, and then it's going to have to go back to the respective bodies to be voted on again. Now they're talking in the halls of the Capitol that we may or may not get a budget. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on who the speaker and the Senate president put on the conference committees.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
going to be the big topic.
so the good news is that it is moving at this point. Of course, they are constitutionally required to pass a budget. So if they fail to in this session, we're talking about a special session,
We'll
right?
be talking about a special session in late May or early June is the talk around the building.
Yeah. So hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Hopefully we can get a budget and
hopefully they get it tied up and
get out of
put
here
to bed.
about March 8th. Yeah. So because if we don't have a budget, then our direct distribution is affected.
That's right.
Directly. And so,
well, not to mention our state services that everybody relies on. So yeah. So if they don't, they will.
We're going to have a budget eventually.
Yes. Yeah. Well, great. Well, that kind of speaking of budgets, one of the things that's been important to us this session is to get some tools in for our folks to use the Amendment A approved ability to invest in equities. As we mentioned last time, there's ways to do that through the state. There's ways to do that through the private sector, and maybe even in-house if you meet certain conditions. But and I think all of that will take the next interim. But Senate File 90 takes care of the first one, and it has successfully passed the Senate.
Yes.
Senate File 90 will allow authorize the state treasurer to create a third fund of local government investments, which would be more aggressive. It would require longer time frames to keep your money in there, but it would draw potentially those higher interest rates. And so this bill would authorize that. We're 100% behind that, so we can get started using this new tool. The treasurer and his staff have been very helpful in moving this, and I think that when this passes, I think you can look for them to move pretty quickly in getting the program set up. So that's some more good news for us. Bob, why don't you, since I'm making you have all the hard discussions today, why don't you kind of give us an update on what's going on with all these property tax bills?
Okay. Well, Dave, we started the session with 21 property tax bills, and the good news is we're down to 10. There's being debated hot and heavy over the last couple of days, the last week, and this morning. I think that the bodies are coalescing around three bills. That would be House Bill 4, which is there's a rebate program that the state has, and to qualify, you have to earn no more than 125% of AMI. This would increase that. And the governor put $20 million in his budget to fund that. So I think you will see that one go. Another bill you hear a lot about is House Bill 45, which limits property tax appreciation assessed values to 5%, and on property, on structures and property. If you look across the state, and obviously in a number of the counties, property taxes have gone up double digit, but in a lot of the counties they haven't gone up more than 5%. So that will likely pass. There's no backfill in that, but we at WHAM felt like that we had to get behind one or two of the property tax bills, and that's one of the ones we've been.
Well, and this one is really aimed pretty well at the problem instead of just giving a blanket relief. It's kind of aimed more at those who really need the relief. So, we feel like we can support that.
House Bill 52 is a homestead exemption sponsored by the Representative Summers. That does have a backfill in it. Of course,
Thank you, Representative Summers.
Yeah, and we've been promised backfills before, but it's in the bill right now. I think probably the most interesting bill out there that's going on, and it's probably not going to pass, but it would be a bill that would increase the state sales tax by 2%. and would provide an exemption of $1 million on every residential property in Wyoming, which for most of the residents in the state, they would have no property tax.
That's right.
But and so that the backfill, if you will, would be from that extra 2% of sales tax. This bill, and I really appreciate Representative Harsman bringing it. It's out of the box thinking. But it has drawn a lot of opposition from industry. We are opposing the bill. The counties are opposing the bill. I'd probably be an interim topic.
It probably will be.
But
our main concern with the bill is just that it won't give us any extra funding from the sales tax,
right.
Just the amount we lost in property tax,
right.
and will then make our 5th and 6th, general and special purpose taxes a 7th and 8th.
Exactly.
So our concern is
Even
that we'll
harder.
actually lose on it because
right.
those will be so much harder to pass.
And that was our testimony before House Revenue, that you're gonna, 93 of the 99 towns use the 5th cent. And about 40 or 50 of them use some version of the 6th cent, whether it's economic development or specific purpose, and it's going to put those in jeopardy. There was an amendment to make the 5th cent permanent, but it never got introduced, but it still left the 6th cent hanging out there. So,
that's we think that good chance that'll be an interim topic. Slim chance that it will be passed.
I would be very surprised if it did pass first reading 31-30 late Friday afternoon, but I don't see it getting past second reading in the House. So that's
good.
I mean, there are a few more we could talk about, but those are the ones that we think we're going to make across the finish line. If anybody's got a question about a tax bill, call me at 413-3483. Be happy to talk with the specifics about any of these bills.
Thanks, Bob. So, another set of bills that'll be of particular interest to our members are these retirement bills. There are 3 public retirement system bills that are still alive.
Yep.
And moving.
Yep.
The first one would actually allow the actuarials in the retirement system to set those increases instead of having increases coming through the legislature periodically. Those would be set administratively. Speaking of the legislature setting them, there are 2 bills that would raise the rates on both the police and the regular PERS system.
The big plan.
The big plan.
Yeah.
The big plan, I think it was 0.5% on.
It's 1% divided over 2 years.
In the big plan,
starting July 1st of this year and July 1st of next year, so half and half.
Now, the other bill that would increase the police rates was going to hit all in 1 year.
It was a 5% increase, and it was going to be effective July 1 of 2024. At the committee, we testified that we understood the need to make the plan solvent and to have some increased contributions, but we asked that it be spread out.
And under the current form of the bill, it is spread over 3 years.
It's spread 1.8% over 3 years. So that it's important that we keep these plans going. If you remember, Fire Fund A, when it was in trouble, and if you could have fixed it for $14 million, the legislature deferred for a number of years. The final cost of making that plan solvent was $90 million. So it's like water rates. You need to keep them current. So
there's just a handful of other bills, and we're certainly not talking about all the bills. We're tracking about we're on about 60 of these bills. We're talking about maybe 10 in this video. But just a few more of interest. House Bill 81 deals with public officer financial training. And you remember that we had a bill that required everybody to take financial training. They wanted it done in a hurry, and they didn't really have the resources to carry it out. WHAM has taken a really active role
Yeah.
and providing that training and helping our members get that. And I really commend the staff. Justin Schilling in particular deserves a real shout out
Yeah.
on that. But this House bill would actually kind of mellow out the requirements on that. It would
Right.
still make that funding available, but it really be moving more from a
It's
stick
more
to a carrot.
it's more of a recommendation
Yeah,
than a mandate at this
Yeah.
point.
yeah.
That was heard at Senate Judiciary today, and the bill will likely go forward. But it was really aimed at some of the small special districts.
Yeah.
So there's still going to be the training's going to be offered. You'll be able to take it online, but they've basically taken the enforcement piece out of it
If the bill passes.
if the bill passes.
Yeah. What else you got, Bob?
Senate File 131 regulatory reduction. This would, as we discussed last week, would fund the regulatory reduction task force for another couple over the interim. Appropriates $55,000 to pay for travel and per diem for the legislator, and it did change the composition of the task force. It dropped a couple of Department of Ag and DEQ out, and with a local government official, there's an amendment that has to be a currently elected local official. So we had asked for an amendment for one for the city and one for the counties. That was not, we couldn't get that done, but there will be, so the next member representing local government will be an elected official.
Will actually be active in local government.
Active local government. Senate File 132 is a reappropriation of the ARPA bill. Reappropriates, I'm not sure, 54 million to 105 million, somewhere in there. That's the last ARPA bill standing after 4 were introduced.
The story of the session.
I guess the last bill I want to talk about, Dave, is Senate File 114. That's contractor licensing. Would make contractor licensing reciprocal. We've been working with the building officials around the state, and
big shout out to them, by the way. They've been very helpful.
Yeah, and Mayor Collins in Cheyenne has been helpful. So right now, the bill, when it was drafted, was terrible. But the bill, there's going to be an amendment on third reading that would set some minimum standards, and the bill would also allow each city to have its own insurance requirements, bonding requirements. But essentially, once you've taken, you met the minimum requirements and taken the test, the ICC is probably the test that's going to be the standard. You can take your contractor's card and go to any city. You're still going to have to meet their insurance requirements. You're still going to have to meet the bonding requirements, but you won't have to take the test again.
You'll have to pay the licensing
and you're
fee.
going to have to pay the city a fee.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. So that's sort of the main bills that we're watching.
Bob, appreciate the work you do over there.
Well,
we're very indebted to you, and I hope our members know what a great job you do. Anything you want to add before we say goodbye?
Just a shout out to the folks who were here last week, and really all the elected officials, because when they pick up the phone or send an email, that really has a powerful effect. That's way more powerful than you or I going over there and talking to them. So just appreciate you guys being involved. I know you got a lot going on in your own towns, and this seems a little bit remote, but appreciate your help.
Yeah, and I would add to that, Bob, we're paid to kind of know the ins and outs of all these things, and our members don't always know all the ins and outs, and that's okay. If you understand, if you think something's important, you communicate to your legislator that's important.
Right.
If they need background information,
right,
we're happy to get with them and fill in that background information.
Yeah.
So,
and if anybody has any questions about any of the legislation, like I said, 413-3483 is the best way to get a hold of me. Be happy to talk you through any of these bills. So
sounds great. Or call me as well. Again, pleasure representing you. We're working hard over here, and boy, we appreciate the help you're giving us, and we'll talk to you next week.